taxes is the biggest bill that you're ever going to pay, like
Right.
ever. And if you get the foundation right, then everything else will come along with it. But I was doing Facebook Lives 5 days a week for 6 months before anybody even listened to me. If
Mm.
you tough it out and discipline yourself when it's hard, when you got a whole bunch of money, it really is, it becomes easy.
Mm. Welcome to the A Word to Be Heard podcast. I'm Mario Johnson, and today we have a very special guest who's an IRS certified expert in the world of taxes. She's better known as the Home Biz Tax Lady, and as of late, I refer to her as Thank You because she has saved my life so many times. Miss LuSundra Everett. Welcome to the podcast, LaSundra.
Thank you so much for having me. I'm excited to be here.
Thank you for agreeing to come on. I'm excited to have you. So, as I said before, I originally had planned this conversation to be about taxes. But after doing some homework and doing some research, I found this right here. This book, The Home Biz Tax Lady's No Nonsense Guide to Home Business Management. She says it on the book. People believe me when I tell you this. She says this is the only book you'll ever need to run a profitable home business. I read this book. Let me turn it back around. I read this book. She's right. She is so right. There's so many things on here that I thought I knew, that I didn't know. And it just enlightened me to a lot of different things in the world of running a business. You know, I've been running my IT company since 2017. So we're going on 3 years now, going into the fourth year. And I still didn't know a fraction of what you put in this book. This book is amazing. It's a very quick read. You know, you can sit down. It's heavy on the eyes, large font. Thank you for the large font. And you know, within an hour, you've learned for $20. By the way, it's a steal, people. It's a steal. But for $20, you've gotten what would cost other people in a consultation, you know, one, two, up to $500, and literally for that same hour. So again, I know we had agreed to talk taxes. I'm sorry to throw that curveball at you, but I want to give you the opportunity to really
Yeah,
talk
that's
about
just a
this.
little bit of a curveball, just a little one. But you know what though? To say it's the only book, maybe I was kind of feeling myself when I wrote that. I don't know. It was my first one. I would be honest. That was just one of those things. I'm like, we just gonna put this on out there. But it was really about providing the foundational
Mm.
information that you need.
Mhm.
And if you get the foundation right, then everything else will come along with it. So if you get those foundational things right, knowing your numbers, knowing about your business, and getting it right when you have no money, you're just getting started.
Mhm.
If you know about that stuff, then when you make a bunch of money, it's not going to crumble.
Right.
And so that's really why I wound up writing the book. And yeah, again, it was just, I'm looking at this book like, okay, you know how you get the books and you sitting there like, I need a magnifying glass when you get a little bit older,
Yes,
you know.
yes, yes.
And so, as a matter of fact, somebody told me like, you need to reduce the font on this book. I'm like, yeah, there's probably a whole bunch of things that I can probably correct or add to the book, which I will. I'm going to be publishing a new version
Okay.
of the book
Mhm.
within the in the coming year,
Mhm.
but still the information there is solid,
It
and it
is.
doesn't matter what you're doing, like those are just really foundational key things that you need to know in your business.
Yeah, I can agree more with that. If version 2 does come out, I don't know how you can add more value to what you already have, but make sure I'm aware. I will definitely be joining the mailing list for version 2 because I
We'll
want to
get
get my
that
hands on
together.
that. I mean, the things about it is, and it wasn't just the information. You know, most people they give you their take on how to do certain things. You actually went out and did some research and brought in knowledge from other authors, from other, you know, entrepreneurs, from people who are, you know, have done already achieved a certain level in the business world, and you include, you know, some of their tactics in here. And that's one thing I really like about that is that it's not just do what LaSundra says. It's like no, 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 no. LaSundra paid attention. She went out, she did the homework, and she's bringing this all back to you again for $20. It's amazing. So,
Yeah, I've made a lot of those mistakes too.
hmm
So, yeah. But you know what though? I study a lot. And
hmm
and I'll tell anybody, I do read a lot. I mean, what's you see on my bookshelf there is really a fraction
hmm
of what, I studied because this is what I do. I'm not the light switch tax person. I really want to be a resource for my clients.
hmm
That's really it's not just about tax preparation. That's only a part of it. Taxes is a huge part because taxes is the biggest bill that you're ever going to pay, like
Right.
ever.
Right.
More than housing, raising kids, all of that. Taxes is the most expensive bill that you're going to have.
hmm
And so with that, how do we minimize that? So this is what I do. I'm not the light switch, turn the lights on in January, turn them off in April
hmm
kind of person. Like this is what I do. This is how I eat. And so in order for me to be a valuable resource, I got to know stuff. I don't have to know it all, but I need to know who knows stuff.
Exactly.
So yeah,
Yeah.
so
Yeah.
that's really how I look at it. It's not just the tax professional, but also as a resource.
Yeah, and that's great. One thing going into the tax conversation that you had mentioned this to me in one of our prior talks, but I didn't really pay much attention to it because you know how guys are. But in reading it, it made sense when you talked about setting up the 5 accounts,
Mhm.
and having a tax account. See, I have 2 accounts. I didn't even have the minimum three, which you noted in there was the three minimum. I didn't even have that. I had the 2 accounts. I had my operating profit, salary. I had everything rolled into one account. Then I have a savings account. So
Mhm.
um, having that tax account is really important because as you noted, nobody, and I didn't even know about the potentially paying 4 checks within 6 months. I didn't know about that. So having to do all of that at one time is man, that could be a shock to someone who's unprepared.
Yeah, and believe me, there are a lot of people getting shocked all the time. So, the main thing I say is this. If you do it when it's hard,
hmm
because it's hard when you're bootstrapping and you don't have any money.
Yeah,
I get it because I
yeah,
have been there.
yeah,
But if you tough it out and discipline yourself when it's hard, when you got a whole bunch of money, it becomes easy.
hmm
And the great thing about it is that if you save up too much tax money, then you have choices,
that's true.
right?
Yeah,
You've
that's
got
true.
choices instead of trying to figure out how you're going to pay your tax bill. I much rather have choices. You create your own tax refund instead of waiting for it to come back from the government. So if you save up too much, then you can give yourself a bonus. You can reinvest in the business. You
Yeah.
can do whatever you want to do
hmm
with that money. I recommend having a business savings account. Definitely recommend that. And mainly because at this time we're still dealing with the COVID stuff,
Yeah.
and there were a lot of people, a lot of business owners that were struggling because they had no business savings,
Yeah.
and a lot of them went under, and they were really depending on that whole government thing with the paycheck protection loans and the
hmm
economic injury disaster loans. And all of it was a debacle when
hmm
it was first rolled out. So there were a lot of small businesses that were just left just hanging in the balance. But
hmm
if you start to prepare, it's not a matter of if but when
Yeah.
another COVID type situation happens. You
hmm
want to have your business in a position to where any type of funding, federal funding or whatever, is a bonus, not a requirement.
Yeah, yeah, that makes a lot of sense. Now, speaking on the economic relief packages and things like that, um, in your position, given that you are a tax expert, you help people with their taxes and everything. Were you one of the ones who was your business able to take advantage of that, or did you even need to take advantage of that?
Oh yeah. So, there were when I tell you people across the board, took advantage of those things,
hmm
holy cow. Yeah. And I would have told anyone, if you are in position to secure capital.
Mm-hmm.
That's what we're talking about,
Mm-hmm.
right? Is securing capital. Every business needs to get themselves in the position to secure capital. Why? Because that's how you grow.
Right. Right.
Okay. You can't do it all on your money. People like they want to be the Jeff Bezos of the world and, the Warren Buffetts of the world.
Yeah.
They utilize capital, other
Mm-hmm.
people's money,
Mm-hmm.
to build their businesses. And it's not taking other people's money and running, but getting a return on that investment. And so when you put yourself in a position to secure capital, when you need to, you know, upgrade systems and all of that, then you will have the funding to do it.
Mm-hmm.
And really, honestly, that's what I did. This was an opportunity for me to really invest, upgrade systems and stuff. And so, yeah, and with favorable terms,
Very nice.
with the paycheck protection loan, even if you have to pay it back,
Mm-hmm.
it's a 1% interest rate.
Yeah, that's almost free money. Yeah.
It's almost free. You can't get any close to free than that,
Yeah.
you know? So, there were people who were very scared of taking a loan. They really could have used the money, but they were afraid. And like, the only people that are afraid are those that don't have a plan to pay it back.
Yeah. Yeah.
Right. So, so you really have to assess where you are in the business, know what your needs are. It's not just going to get random money,
Mm-hmm.
right? Knowing what your needs are so that, when you do get that funding, you already know where it's going and you can execute on the plan.
Mm. Yeah. So building on that, I guess that's where I'm going back to your book because I'm going to reference your book a lot. That's where you mentioned having a business plan into a budget
Yes.
laid out because it will help you in situations where you have the opportunity to gain access to capital that normally wouldn't be made available and to ensure that you're, I guess, allocating it to the correct areas,
Yes.
and
And because people, one of the things that people automatically want to know is how do I get a business loan?
mm,
Well, those are basic things, a business plan and a budget. They want to know what is your plan to actually make this money and how are you planning on spending the money?
mm,
And, people, will walk into a bank, well, I just need $15,000. Like,
what for?
and
Yeah, like,
exactly
yeah,
what for, what are you going to use it for? So this is why, if you've done this homework, and a lot of times people make it more complicated than what it is because you see these 20, 30 page business
yes,
plans, whatever. It does not have to be that complicated. Okay. It just doesn't, because when you're talking to lenders, and this is information I'm getting from lenders directly from the banking people themselves,
right.
is they're like, yeah, you can tell when a business owner has paid $1,000 for a business plan and one that they wrote themselves, because they'll start asking questions about that business plan and the business owner can't answer them.
Exactly. Yeah. Because I fell prey to that, paying someone to do a business plan for me. And she sent me this huge questionnaire. And, I went through, spent a day and a half filling out this questionnaire. And the business plan that she sent me back, most of it wasn't even related to what I answered. And it wasn't even,
Mm.
geared around my business, and unfortunately, you get what you pay for. And when she did the financial part of it, the numbers didn't like I said, okay, I want to project to make, first year $250,000. And then from there, I would like to double that. So second year, I want to increase to a 500,000. Third year, I want to go to a 250,000, and by the fourth year, I want to, seemingly be bringing in $1 million worth of revenue. Okay. She took that and put that $250,000 per service that I provided.
Oh, wow.
Exactly. So she had me grossing $10 million in the first year.
Yeah, show
Yeah,
me a business that does that, like,
exactly.
ever.
And I when I read that, I was like, wait a minute. This is, even from my standard, unrealistic.
Mm,
Come on. Yes, ultimately I want to get to being $1 billion company, but I understand that I'm nowhere near there right now. I don't have the
yeah.
infrastructure in place. I don't have, any of the systems in place to make that happen. And when I went back and said, hey, your numbers are way off. I don't know where you got these numbers from. Okay, I'll correct it. A week later, I get back the exact same thing. So it kind of goes into what you're saying, where you can tell who wrote it versus who paid for it.
Right.
And that's one thing I like about, the template that you provide in the book, at the back of the book with your resources and everything. You break it down in a way that's understandable to people who've never done a business plan. Because I'll be honest with you, business plans are scary. Again,
Hmm.
like you talk about that 20, 30 page immaculate plan that lays out when they go to bed, when they wake up, when they go to lunch, and all these other
Yeah.
things. Yeah. So to have I guess you could say a layman's version
Yeah.
of being able to do it helps out tremendously. Which is, again, I'm going to plug this book this entire talk.
I'm very okay. So first of all, let me say I am very surprised because most people do not even do that. And the fact that you went and found it like ta-da, like holy cow. Okay. So
Yeah.
that was a shocker.
Yeah. For those who
But
don't know,
yeah, but I just want people to know like really being able to conceptualize exactly what it is.
mhm,
So if you do choose to invest in a business plan, you know what they're talking about, right?
right,
You don't
right,
gotta know what's in there, whether and that's how I am about the tax piece. Like you need to understand what this is saying.
mhm,
So even with your tax, I don't care what you're dealing with, whether it's taxes, contracts, or whatever, get the plain English version.
yeah, yeah,
Like you get all of the jargon and the legalese. What does that really mean exactly?
mhm, mhm.
That's where I am. Like, what does this mean exactly?
Yeah, and that's why it's good to
So
have a resource like you, for people to talk to, because you you like the legal jargon. You like to read through it, as we talked about before. An entertaining night for you is, snuggled up on the couch reading through tax code.
right.
uh,
I am such a geek. I admit it. I'm a
but see that's what makes you such a great resource, especially for our community, because generally speaking, we're not going to do that. I'm not going to sit down and spend a night with a nice cup of tea and a book of 2020 tax law, sitting there looking through it. So again, that's what makes you a great resource, and also the fact that you have the ability to break it down so that we can understand it, so that when you do relay the information, you're not just funneling what you read. You're actually interpreting it and using the words, because of course everything is basically synonyms at that point. You're using the vernacular in which we can relate to it. Okay, I know what she's saying. That makes so much sense. Why didn't they just put that in the book?
Why didn't they just say it that way?
Right, right.
Exactly. Believe me, when we're reading the tax code, we're asking the same question. Like,
I think it's
y'all
done
couldn't
a
have found a simpler way to write
Well,
this.
I think it's done intentionally because what's the saying? If you ever want to hide something from someone, put it in a book.
Hmm.
And the more you can kind of run a person in circles who doesn't understand exactly what's going on, that doesn't know how to decode what it is that they're saying, they can continue to pull the wool over your eyes, and they can continue to get you caught up in situations that you thought you were doing everything correctly, but come to find out you weren't even on the right track. So
Hmm.
again, that's why I value you. You know. But okay, so another thing I want to talk about, because I'm not going to spend all day talking about your book, even though it's amazing. Um, what initially drew me to you as a client, and also as someone, as I see now, that can provide information. Like I look at you as a mentor from a tax perspective. You're definitely my resource when it comes to the tax area. No questions asked. If I have a tax question, I'm calling you. I'm going to email you. I'm going to do something. You're going to know that I have this question. But the one thing that drew me to you was when I was looking through the YouTubes, and I was trying to figure out how to structure my
Hmm.
business, because I was looking to start some additional businesses, and I wanted to do a holding company, and I didn't know if I needed to do LLC, if I needed to do S corp. The one of my the guy that I was leasing my office from was saying, "Oh man, you got to go S corp. You got to go S corp. You don't know what you're doing. You got to go S corp. Put yourself on a salary." And I was like, "Well, let me research this, because I may not, I may be setting myself up for a big failure." And I came across your video on and it literally said, LLC versus S corp. What should you choose? And I was like, you know what? Here we go. And after watching your video, of course, I reached out to you, and we went from there. But The information was incredible, and you had to forgive me. I talk a lot, so feel free to cut me off
Mhm.
at any time. I have to remind myself to pause. Like Mario, shut up.
Well, so when it comes down to any type of information. So understand that everybody on social media and on these streets, everybody wants to be a tax professional,
Hmm.
between January and April because you see everybody out here throwing what they little tax stuff they know out there.
Hmm.
And people are, in the comments and whatever, rah, rah, and they're sharing this. And then there's someone like me going, excuse me, that's not exactly right.
Yeah.
But you'd be surprised at how angry people get when you tell them that the information that you got is not complete
Hmm.
and it's just enough to get you in a ton of trouble.
Hmm. But my
And
cousin
so,
said it, so it's got to be true.
yeah, so if it's on the internet and this person is someone I respect,
Yeah.
so it has to be true.
Hmm.
Like they can be misinformed as well.
Hmm.
And I'll give you a, a perfect example. There was a post that was going around on social media, you know, get your high school kid an LLC for graduation, run money
Yes,
through it,
I
and all
remember
of that other
that.
stuff. And I'm like, that's not exactly how that works,
Hmm.
right? It's just not exactly it. And it actually turned into a huge social media fight between
Really?
me and some other dude. And I'm sitting here like, okay, I said what I said. It's still
Hmm.
not a good idea.
Hmm.
And I mean him, all of his followers. I was like, I don't care how many of y'all come on this post. I said what I said. It's
Right.
still not a good idea.
Hmm.
And so, but what that does though is it sets people up, like I said, for enough information to get themselves in trouble. When if you would invest in the consultation, because what people do is they treat tax professionals like it's our job to give you all of this information for free, and
Yeah.
it's not
Yeah.
because this is how we eat. So
Mm.
if we give you information that's going to save you $1,000, why shouldn't we get to eat too? You
Exactly.
know?
Yeah.
So I tell people make sure that in all of your budgeting that you do consult with tax professionals.
Hmm.
You've got enrolled agents like myself, you've got
Hmm.
CPAs, you got, financial advisors. That is why we're here because it's our job to know what to do with these things to benefit our
Hmm.
clients. So yeah, you invest in the consultation because that, $200-300, whatever that is, in that consultation is going to save you thousands on the back end. But what happens is, you go get your street committee tax advice. At least you like, okay, let me go check this out. Oh, I can call somebody. Awesome, right? But what they do is they take the street committee tax advice, they go do it, and then the letters from the IRS come. And the difference between a tax professional like myself and the person that's on Facebook is I have responsibility here.
Right. Right.
And so if if I tell you to do something and I don't tell you what all encompassing what you need to do,
Hmm.
then that's something that falls back on me. That ain't what we doing. Right? But the street committee, they just tell you whatever, and you just go do it, and voila. And then the biggest question that comes out after that is, why didn't somebody tell me? Who did you ask? Who did you consult with?
Yeah.
And so, so it really is a horrible, horrible cycle. And every year, if you pay any attention at all to social media, you're going to see everybody out here trying to give all day the street committee tax advice. And it's just enough to get people in trouble with the IRS and the state. Like,
Yeah.
it's not just
Yeah.
about the IRS, the state is ferocious compared to the IRS, all of the different states. Mhm.
Oh wow. Well,
Let
thank.
that be clear.
I say thank God for Florida.
Yeah.
Yeah. So when you're talking about the different types of tax professionals, when you had mentioned the enrolled agent, which is what you are, explain what that means.
So, an enrolled agent is someone who has taken a three-part exam and then they get a federal license from the IRS. And that federal license allows us to prepare taxes nationwide. It also allows us to represent the client with the IRS
Mm.
so that if you're dealing with any tax problems or anything like that, you can sign a power of attorney to where the IRS is dealing with your tax professional and your tax professional is dealing with you.
Mm.
So that stops the IRS from calling your house.
Nice. Very nice.
And then we're basically we're representing you with the client, and we're doing what's best for you.
Hmm.
One of the things that people mistakenly believe, because we have the word agent in our credential, that we work for the IRS. We do
Hmm.
not. We work for the client. We are just licensed by the IRS.
Okay, well that's good. Is that the highest level of certification you can achieve for tax preparation?
Yes,
Okay. Okay.
yes. And there are there are other things, like there is a tax court practitioner, which is they generally start out as enrolled agents, but then they take a very like woo, type of exam,
Uh-huh.
and then they can go to tax court. So that if there's anything that is a limitation of enrolled agents, is we can't go to tax court, but we have tax court professionals that tax court practitioners that can actually do that. That's on
Okay.
my list of things to do.
Very nice. Very nice. Okay.
Don't let me get it. Listen, I'm about to be all on Law and Order. I'm just playing.
Look, as long as you don't forget about me when you get there, I don't care where you go. I'll help you get to the moon and back. Just make sure you take us with you, okay? So, another thing that I had noticed that really caught my attention that we had spoke about before was how you broke down Trump's taxes. And how
Mhm.
people were saying, oh, he avoided taxes or tax evasion. He should go to prison. How is it that he only paid, I think it was like $750 over the course of 5 years or
Yeah.
something like that? Explain to the people who may still be confused on why that wasn't illegal.
So, the funny thing about the tax code, and this really happens every election cycle about taxes,
Hmm.
and it also, every year, like last year, it was Jeff Bezos because he didn't pay
Right,
taxes on
right.
all this other stuff, right? And so, but that's corporate tax law. Okay. When you have a corporation, if you lose money, then it's called a net operating loss.
Hmm.
And prior to 2017, you could take a net operating loss back 2 years and forward 18. So you could actually lose money 1 year, go back 2 years, look at your tax returns and see if you paid any taxes there, and then amend those taxes and get some of that tax money back, and then whatever remaining loss you have, you get to carry that forward until you use it all. So when with Trump, he lost almost $1 billion in the 90s. Okay, it was a lot of money.
That's a pretty big number. That's a
It's
really
a
big
lot.
number.
When people tell me, "Well, I want to be like Trump," like, okay, go ahead and lose $1 billion. Let me see how that feels. You know. Um, so it really is it's tax law. So no, he did not do anything illegal.
Hmm.
It was just tax law.
Hmm.
And and the thing about it is, like, all the airlines when all of the airlines crashed after 9/11, they did the same thing. They did the exact same thing. So it really is corporate tax law. That has since changed a little bit, but during COVID, they go, okay, well, let's put that back to what it
Yeah,
was, and then
yeah.
we'll pick back up later on. So it really is that it's corporate tax law. So they talked about his hair. Like, I think he said he paid like $70,000 for a hairstylist.
You need to get a new
Okay,
stylist.
like for us,
Uh-huh.
$70,000 for some hair? What?
Especially that hair, not some
But
hair, but that hair.
but that
Yeah.
hair, but in the overall big scheme of things,
Hmm.
$70,000 in a year for him is like 700 for the regular human being,
Right,
right?
right.
So if anything, it's an improper deduction, and he would have to pay the tax on that money. That's not a go to jail offense. It's
Mhm.
it's just not. Now, if they dig into his finances and find out that he did do something criminal, that's something completely different. But just on the surface, the amount of tax that he had to pay, that doesn't mean anything that
Uh-huh.
he did anything illegal. So it's going to take, like he was talking about, going through the audit process. Well, yeah, it's going on because if you keep stalling and then the IRS comes back to you and you keep stalling, yeah, he's dragging maybe dragging that process out.
Yeah.
But you know, until they find something criminal, and if it's criminal, they will find it.
They will find it.
Make
Yes.
no mistake,
Yes.
okay? Because we had a billionaire friend, Robert H. Smith. He got caught up with somebody else. He was
Mm-hmm.
just a smaller fish
Mm-hmm.
on the way to a bigger fish. And the great thing about it, for lack of a better term, is that he had something to offer the feds to keep him out of jail.
Right.
Normally, that does not happen.
Yeah. I mean, because Wesley Snipes, he was unable to avoid it. Yeah.
Wesley, Ja Rule,
Uh-huh.
who was a DMX,
Was it
all,
oh
they
no.
all tried it.
Yeah, yeah. And unfortunately there was only who was it? I think Kenny Rogers was one of the only people who was able to get out of it because he literally gave them the proceeds from another album. He produced another album
Hmm.
and gave them all the money, which covered his tax debt. And that's what kept him
Yeah,
from having to go to jail. Yeah.
yeah, and that's the thing. When you go to jail for tax stuff, the bill is still sitting there when you get out,
Yeah.
and
Yeah.
it's still accumulating interest
Mm.
while you're in. So that ain't what you want,
So it's not a you go to jail and we waive the fee. You
right?
go to
No,
jail, but you still owe us. And if you don't pay us,
because
you're
you
going to go
still
to
owe
jail
us.
again. Yeah.
Yeah, that's exactly what it is. Like, and plus some interest while you sitting there compounding added every day. So it's
Mm.
and that's the thing. Like when it comes to tax debt, people automatically think, oh, they're going to come put me in jail.
Mm.
There's a whole bunch of things that happen before the IRS is trying to send you to jail.
Uh-huh.
It's not, you're not being sent to jail because you can't pay a tax bill. That's not what it is. If people get sent to jail, it's because they don't file their taxes. So I always caution you to file your taxes even if you can't pay the tax bill.
Mm-hmm.
Okay, but people go to jail for not filing their taxes. People go to jail for hiding money.
Ah.
Okay.
Uh-huh.
So you might file your taxes and you have a tax bill, but instead of trying to pay your tax bill, you start hiding money, like putting everything in your mama name
Yeah.
and,
Yeah.
trying to deal strictly in cash
Yeah.
to avoid having to avoid detection from the IRS. That's criminal. That's tax evasion. You'll go to jail for that.
Mhm.
But just not being able to pay a tax bill, no.
Okay, well, that's definitely good to know because, for most people, it's like, oh my God, I got this huge bill. What am I going to do? I got to find somebody. And this is where you get mixed up with those street talkers. I got to
Yeah.
find somebody who can fix my taxes so that it can erase this bill. I speak from experience on that
Mm.
because, we know I have had an issue with my taxes from
Mhm.
I let a friend of mine do it, and he
Mhm.
claimed a very huge amount in employee expense. And
Mhm.
the IRS was like, "Wait a minute, man, are you sure you claim you had this much as an
Yeah.
expense from traveling? I mean, that's a really large number." And there was nobody I could talk to other than you to try
Mhm.
to get this resolved. And the news didn't go in my favor, but at least I won't have to go to jail. Because first thing I was thinking is like, "Oh my God, I'm going to go to jail now."
Yeah.
Yeah. So that made me
But
feel.
it happens more often than it happens more often than you think.
Mm,
And so this is why you have to be a smart consumer.
mm,
And unfortunately, a lot of people run away from taxes altogether. It's like, whatever, what's the bottom line? And there you go. But but when you read your tax return, on the signature, it says under penalty of perjury.
surgery. Yeah.
I certify everything is true and correct,
Mm-hmm.
right? So if you don't know what's going in your tax return, how can you sign that tax return?
Right.
And so this is why I come from the really from the educational background to help you understand, like, you need to know what goes in your taxes. So if somebody's doing something funky that you're not familiar with, you can ask the questions and have them explain, how did you get here? And does that make sense to you?
Yeah.
Because there are tax preparers that are going to jail every day for filing false tax returns because they're claiming false education credits, they're claiming false earned income tax credit, they're claiming all kinds of false stuff just to get that refund,
Yeah.
because that's how because if you don't get a refund, then they feel like, okay, well, that person's not going to pay me. So
Yeah, and they're
they
not gonna
have
refer.
that incentive
Yeah.
to inflate a refund to make sure they get paid.
Mhm.
And that's just not right.
Yeah, and it's good to
Period.
know.
Not right.
It's good to know that at least there is some level of accountability for those tax preparers.
Oh
Because
yes.
you know, I always had the notion, and this could be like a street notion. I don't know that all they do is prepare it and they give it to you. Well, they submit it, in your name, and it all falls back on you, and they just get to walk away as if nothing happened. So it's good to know that there is some level of accountability if they are doing illegal things.
Yeah. And that's not to say that tax preparers don't make mistakes. We
Hmm.
are human
Hmm.
and there will be errors. Okay. But professionals fix errors. You
Yeah.
might be angry as the client, but but when we make mistakes, like, okay, here's what it is,
Hmm.
right? And so you might owe money back to the government. Well, yeah, you got the money, so you got to pay it back,
Yeah.
right?
Right.
Like,
Right.
I didn't
Right.
get the money, you got the money.
Right.
You know what
Right.
I'm saying? There's a difference between mistakes and fraud.
Right.
That's the difference.
There's a difference between a mistake and something that was blatantly done, on
Blatantly
purpose.
blatant fraud.
Yeah.
Exactly.
Now I'm gonna rewind this back for a second. So
Mhm.
say I'm because I noticed your book talks about, and I keep referencing the book. I'm trying to stop referencing the book, but I like this book. This is a really good read. But say I'm John Q. Homebody. I'm
Mhm.
at the point to where, or I'll make it more realistic. COVID hits. Okay.
Okay.
Millions of people got laid off. You know,
Mhm.
a lot of industry, especially the hospitality and tourism industry, is taking a really big hit. I'm,
Mhm.
hypothetically speaking, in that industry. I'm suffering. I just lost my job. I want to start a home based business.
Mhm.
From the beginning, not knowing anything about your book, I find out, somebody, they talk to me. Hey, Mario, I'm starting a business. I want to consult with somebody. Can I reach out to them? I'm going to send them to you. What are the steps that they should take? Or say like we're going through an actual consultation and you're
Mhm.
asking me and I'm telling you, I want to start a business. I'm going to sell something, what are the steps? What should I do in order to make sure I'm doing this correctly outside of getting your book?
That is a really good question. So, usually people say, I want to start a business. I'm like, okay, doing what?
Mm-hmm.
And, they go through this whole litany of things. Usually it's, maybe something in the network marketing industry or something like that. But I will tell people to pump the brakes and think about a skill that you already have,
Mm-hmm.
and find out, go, everybody got Google, right? Go see if there's someone that's already using that skill set making money. If there's somebody else making money using that skill set, you can do it too,
Right.
right?
Right.
So there's millions of ways to make money. So that's the first thing I'm going to ask you is, what kind of skill do you already have? And then, okay, what's the plan? Like, how are you going to get your first client? Like, you decided that you're going to bake cakes. Wonderful.
Mm-hmm.
How are you going to get your first client? And so then that's marketing, because marketing is, how are you going to get your first client,
Right.
right?
Right.
So, okay, I'm going to go on Instagram. Wonderful. You're going to go on Instagram. Fantastic. So go on Instagram, put your cakes up there, take your pictures or whatever,
Yeah.
get that first client. Notice I have not talked about business structure yet.
Right. Right.
And the reason is, people spend so much time getting ready to get ready that they
They
don't
never.
go get the first client,
Right. Right.
right? So if you're putting your time and effort into making that first sale, if you make that first sale, then there's more behind
Mm.
that. But people want to go and get all this grandeur before they even sell their first product. So that's my thing. Go and get your first client, then come back to me.
That's a good. I like that because, like you said, once you do get that first client, you get over that hump, and you get that extra level of motivation. I can really do this.
Mhm,
You really get
mhm.
yourself, I guess, mentally in a situation of where this could work. That's awesome.
Mhm,
Now, from there, once we do get that first client,
mhm.
now is that when you talk about structure? Is that when you talk about,
Yeah,
the plan?
absolutely. Yeah,
Okay.
because it really depends on the business. Now, I had a consultation where a lady was starting a transportation company for kids,
Mm-hmm.
like getting basically Uber for kids.
Mm-hmm.
Right. So, with that in mind, like, yeah, you need to go ahead and get your single member LLC and all of that and get all your insurances and invest that money because if you go out here on these streets, somebody T-bones you, even though it's not your fault, them kids' mamas is going to be looking to sue somebody.
Yes, definitely.
And the first person is going to be you, even though it's not your fault.
Mm-hmm.
Right. So it really depends on that level of liability. And this is where you bring in attorneys.
Mm-hmm.
Okay. Because as tax people, we are not attorneys, we are tax people.
Right,
So there are
right.
some things that you really need a legal consultation on.
Mm-hmm.
But, so depending on the type of business that you have, then it may be, you need to get this, at least get a single member LLC first so
Mm-hmm.
that you can have some sort of protection and then, go get your first client.
Yeah.
But it's always comes back to that first client. Like once you say to me, okay, I'm going to go put out flyers all over my area to get my first client. Okay, go do that.
Mm-hmm.
Go
Now,
do it.
does that also go into, because one thing I noticed that when I was reading through is that you broke down the metrics, the numbers, the costs,
Mhm,
like you used marketing as an
mhm,
example, but you used the cost per click. Like you
mhm.
took it all the way down to on such a granular level that you knew exactly how much it was going to take in order to acquire a certain amount of business.
Mhm.
Now, for somebody just starting out, you're not going to have those metrics.
Right.
So is it recommended or advisable to say go and look at someone else's numbers who's also in that industry to kind of get I guess like a standard of
Get a
where to
ballpark?
begin? Yeah, yeah.
Absolutely. I was like, I'm not all about reinventing the wheel,
Mm-hmm.
right? If there's someone else in your industry that's doing what you do, hey, I'd like to bake cakes and I see you bake cakes. Can I consult with you about how you got started?
Right, right.
Listen, there's no need to reinvent the wheel. There's so much stuff out here. If a lady can knit dog hair and make money, and I'm not kidding,
Uh
if there are people out here that's making sweaters out of dog hair, now that ain't my thing,
huh.
but
Mm-hmm.
they have clients,
Yeah.
So look and see if there's somebody else doing what you do,
Mm-hmm.
and so you can get an idea of what their cost per acquisition is for clients.
Mm-hmm.
you know and the when you're getting started in business, you're either going to spend time or money. That's it.
Yeah.
Time or money.
Yeah.
So if you don't have any money, then baby, you better have a
At
whole
that
bunch of time.
time. Right. Right.
Right. And I've been there. That's how, listen, let's be real, that's how the YouTube channel got started.
Makes
Okay.
sense. Makes
Because
sense.
I had no idea of what it was like to start a virtual tax practice. I'm an army wife, so I
Mm-hmm.
had to be virtual because
Right.
I was going to move.
You're definitely going to move in 4 years. You're going to
That
move.
that
Yeah.
Not even 4 years. I was moving every 2 years.
Really?
Yes,
Mm.
every 2 years I have been moving,
Mm-hmm.
just about. So yeah, I had to be able to be virtual, and I didn't know anybody that was doing it. I knew absolutely no one who was moving like me and had a tax practice and was able to grow up virtually. So it was, let's just figure it out.
Yeah. You're actually one
So
of the.
yeah,
I was say
so
you're
I
actually
had to
one of
figure it
the
out.
first. You're one of the first few people that I've seen doing a virtual tax business. Because when you think tax, you're thinking brick and mortar. You're thinking I'm
Yes,
going to go to an office. Yeah.
yeah.
So.
And so that part was, yeah, I really didn't have a guide
Mm-hmm.
into how that was going to work.
Mm-hmm.
And so when I asked myself, how am I going to get my first client? I was like, I have no idea.
Hey.
But after I sat and thought a while, I was like, wait a minute. I come from the home business industry. Let me start there.
Mm-hmm.
So that's what I did,
Mm.
because everybody was out here telling you how to make the money, get more sales, and all that. I was like, huh, there is no tax people. Okay, great. I will be the person.
There we
And
go.
that's
Right.
that's really how I got
Mhm.
to where I am. So, if you ask yourself the difficult questions, you will get the answer.
Yeah.
You absolutely will get the answer.
Mhm.
It might sound crazy. That's okay. Because if you'd have said to me, okay, well, you just go make a whole bunch of YouTube videos and your practice is going to be great, I'd be like, okay, I might not have believed you, but
Right.
because I've done it now, I can tell you, yeah, it totally works.
Right. And I mean, I have to say, that's how I discovered you, off of YouTube. So it definitely works. No
Yeah.
questions. Yeah. So that was a great idea. And that was a great way to look at it.
So
Definitely a
yeah,
great
it's
way.
it's how are you going to get that first client?
Hmm.
And then once you get that first client, then it's let's get that first client over and over and over again until you get a steady stream of revenue.
Right.
Right, it's really getting started in business is really pushing that boulder up the hill.
Hmm.
It's going to take a lot. Like I said, you either got time or money. If you're going to put in the time and you're going to put in the money, because if you're talking about running ads and all of that stuff, it's going to take money to get that visibility, to get that awareness out there so that people know that you exist.
Yeah. Yeah.
Right? You have to come from obscurity. Like, people think money's my problem. No, Grant Cardone said obscurity is your problem,
Right. Right.
right? So you have to raise that level of awareness. You
Hmm.
have to be visible. And, so as a business owner, depending on what it is that you do, you have to figure out, how am I going to be visible to my target market, which is something else that drives people absolutely insane. The target market. It's like,
Yeah.
well, I want to help everybody. Like, no, you don't.
Yeah. That's not how that works. Yeah.
No, you don't.
Yeah.
And
Hmm.
so getting people comfortable with, that target market, to niche down to a specific
Hmm.
person that they talk to over and over again, it's really a scary feeling, because they're thinking about, well, I'm leaving all of this money on the table.
Yeah.
But I say, when you have a target market, it's you're choosing which money to pick up from the table.
Exactly.
You're
Exactly.
choosing that. You got nickels, you got dimes, you got quarters, you got dollars. And so you might have, 500 people going for the dollars.
Hmm.
But if you focus on the quarters, ain't nobody over there.
Hmm.
So you hear about red ocean and blue ocean,
Yeah.
that kind of thing. Yeah, you have to find your own unique thing. And for everybody, that's different. And that's when it's like, you got to get to know who you are on a very deep level, to understand what your gifts are, because every one of us has a gift.
Yeah.
Every one of us.
Yes, that's
You
true.
have something
Hmm.
that will help you in life, and you have to know what that is for you, and that translates into your business. You have to inject you into your business,
Right.
not who you think you should be,
Right.
but who you are.
Right. Now, I got a question for you. So, going back to the capital situation, a lot of
Mhm,
people use this as a hurdle in regards to, well, I don't have any money to start a business, like you just talked about, time or money. Now, here's
mhm.
a question. Um, how, I guess I would say, how much would you lean towards going out looking to secure a business loan initially versus just, putting boots to ground and doing your own self advertising to generate the capital to start off?
I say put boots to ground,
Mm.
because see, when you have done the work, that's really what helps you get the loan.
Yeah.
When you have gone out there and you have put in the blood, the sweat, the tears, the, oh my God, this is not working. Oh my gosh, I got a sale,
Yeah.
going through all of those trials of entrepreneurship.
Hmm.
It's getting through that's going to help you get the loan, but also give you the confidence that you can pay it back,
There you go. Because that's one thing I've
right?
noticed with a lot of banks is that a lot of them they shy away from brand new business. They want you to be in business for at least 5 years before they even look at you
Mhm,
because of the failure rate of those new businesses.
mhm.
Yeah, and like I said, a lot of people tend to get deterred from statistics like that. Well, most businesses they fail in the first year, or they fail in the first 2 years. Well, you're not most businesses. You're your business, and how dedicated are you to your business?
Yeah.
Yeah,
Don't talk to the people that failed. Talk to the ones who succeeded.
exactly.
Yeah.
Hmm.
It's all like, yeah, it's good. Is it good to know the statistics? Yes. But it's not good to dwell on the statistics,
Right, right,
you know, because only you know what you're going to do to make this business successful,
right.
right? Because, I will tell you in my videos, I'm one of the best guinea pigs, right? Because I will tell you, hey, I did this, this was great. Or you know what, I did this, this was not cute. Don't do that, right? I'm very honest about those things.
Uh-huh.
And, I will tell you, I haven't slept in a long time,
Mm,
right?
mm.
And it's hard to do a video every day.
Literally, yeah.
And when I got started, and people like their mouths drop open when I tell them this, but I did Facebook lives, right? So
Mm-hmm.
I do my Facebook lives. That's where I build my audience,
Uh-huh.
and then I put my content on YouTube because YouTube is a search engine. So I just gave somebody a real good tip there. Okay,
There, right. It makes sense.
but um, but I was doing Facebook lives 5 days a week for 6 months before anybody even listened to me.
Mm. That's that. See, that's the dedication right there.
Yeah.
That's that. If you build it, they'll come, but you have to keep building. You have to
You
keep
have to
providing
keep
content.
building.
Yes,
And
yes.
people want to put a deadline on their achievements, on their success.
Mm-hmm.
And you can't do that. You
Mm-hmm.
have to be willing to do whatever until. If the only thing you can do is put out flyers, then you put out flyers until.
Right,
That's what it is. So you
right.
do what you can do until it works.
Mm-hmm. Right. And then once it does catch, it goes.
Yeah,
It goes.
yeah, yeah.
Yeah, yeah.
It does. It really does.
Mm-hmm.
And so, you have to be willing to outwork the
Mm.
next person.
Yeah. Will Smith. Will Smith
Will,
said,
yes,
he said,
that's
I'm
Will
willing to
Smith.
die on the
Yeah.
treadmill. Yeah.
He's like, you can do
And
everything, but you won't outwork me.
exactly, exactly. And I love that. Someone
Yeah.
else, oh God, I'm staring at this. Eric Thomas,
Hmm.
the speaker. He said,
Yes.
you gotta
Whenever I
want
really
it.
need an extra little juice, I
There
got
we
to
go.
turn on some EP.
Hip hop preacher, right? But I used to listen to him religiously when I first got started because I needed that extra juice. I needed that push because being a new entrepreneur, every day you're like, this isn't gonna work. This isn't gonna work. This isn't gonna work. But you got to have somebody kicking you in the butt saying it is gonna work. Just keep going.
Yes.
Just keep going. And
Yeah.
Eric Thomas would tell you, you know, if you don't want it as much as you want that next breath, he was like, think of yourself going out and walking out into the ocean,
Hmm.
and the further you go out, the higher the water gets, and the more you have to fight for that next breath. He said, if you don't want it as much as you want the fight for that next breath, you don't want it,
You don't want it.
you know?
Yeah.
Yeah. And that your story was amazing about, doing the Facebook lives for 6 months before somebody started listening, before somebody started actually watching,
Yeah.
and here, look at you now, I have to say, and again, I speak from experience, you're getting clients strictly from your content,
Yeah.
you know, and
I didn't
it's a
have
great
that
thing.
idea when I was doing that. I
Hmm.
was just, trying to do something. I really didn't see it, like down the road kind of thing. I'm like, I'm just gonna do it because I don't know what else to do. This is what we're gonna
Right,
do here,
right,
and that's
right.
that's what it is. And
Hmm.
so, um, and so when it comes down to having that business, you have to be willing to take those kinds of chances. Like
Hmm.
you're not going to be able to see the second and third order of things. Sometimes it's like, this is what I got right now.
Yeah,
You do what you know how to do until you can do better.
right.
That's what it is. If you just take that first step, and believe me, entrepreneurship is not for the weak.
Yeah, it's
It is
not.
not for the person that is going to be concerned about mom and daddy's opinion, their cousin's opinions, and all that
Hmm.
stuff,
Hmm.
like even on social media, like, on my Facebook, people are like, I don't want to put things on my Facebook wall, my family, but I was like, how many of them people write checks to pay your bills? It's Facebook.
Exactly,
You'll see
exactly.
them at the family reunion whenever we get to
Yes,
have them again,
yes, and they
you
will
know?
still love you. They will love you nonetheless.
And if you as my family don't know what I do,
Mm.
that is a problem.
A huge problem. A
That is
huge
a
problem.
problem.
Yeah.
So,
Yeah.
you know, I love what I do.
Mhm.
I love, the tax industry, but I also love helping people get themselves together in business, because the main people that wind up in tax trouble is the independent contractor, is the small
Yeah.
business owner, because
Yeah.
the last person you think about contacting is the tax person. Well, that should be one of the first people
Yeah.
you contact,
Yeah. Yeah.
because otherwise, you wind up in tax trouble. And the main people that are getting in tax trouble right now are my younger millennials and
Mhm.
Gen Zers that
Mhm.
are, or that are coming up, and they're going out here, and they call it the gig economy, where you're driving for Uber and Lyft and DoorDash and all of that, and you're making all this money, but you're not filing taxes. And they don't understand, like, you get that 1099K, that gets sent to the IRS
It
as well.
does.
And so
Yes.
the IRS is just waiting on you. But you won't hear from the IRS that first year or that second year. But over in that third year, if you
Mhm.
have not filed, they will
Yes.
be coming for you saying, hey,
And by the
as far
way,
as we're concerned, you owe us money. So
can't
here's
help
your
but to
bill.
notice. Yeah,
Please and
can't help
thank
but to
you.
notice. Money, you, us. Let's talk. Yeah.
Yeah. And then they come looking for the tax professional,
Mhm.
when that's one of the first people, because people look at us as that we're just data entry people.
Right.
That is not correct.
Because most people, those the street talkers, that's what they are. They
Yes.
just plug in numbers and they try to make it work. So they make your return look as attractive as possible. So you refer your
Mhm.
friends to come work with them. They're not actually analyzing your situation. So
Right.
that's why we look at, unfortunately and,
Mhm.
completely unrightfully so, we look at every tax professional under that same within that same
Yeah,
lens.
the
Yeah.
same lens, yeah,
Yeah.
and that's not the case. So, when you are, and it's funny, because even when people, reach out to me like, "Hey, you need to schedule a consultation." "Well, why I got to pay you?" Like,
Are
you
you
don't.
serious?
You absolutely do not have to pay me,
Yeah,
but guess what? I don't have to talk to you either.
exactly. Because
So,
everyone's time is important. It doesn't matter
yeah.
who it is. Yeah,
Yeah.
yeah.
And the thing that people also don't realize is what's happening when we're not preparing taxes. See, we as, credentialed people, enrolled agents, we
Hmm.
have to take continuing education. Now,
Hmm.
mind you, we only have to have a minimum of like 24 credit hours per year,
Hmm.
right? But I'm usually somewhere between 80 and 100.
There we go. Right.
And that costs money
Mm.
that
It
you don't pay
does.
for.
Right.
So when you pay for those consultations, you're paying for the time and effort and the money I spent in learning what I'm learning, so I can then be a great advisor for you. It's just
Right.
like a stylist, right? If
Right.
you're a master stylist and you've gone and you've learned the science of hair, and I'm like, why doesn't my hair? You expect for me to pay you for knowing why my hair is not doing what it do,
That is true.
or what I wanted to do, or whatever.
Yep.
So, when you are working for mastery
Hmm.
in your profession, that is what I tell people. It's not perfection, it's mastery.
Hmm.
And mastery is a journey, it is not a destination.
Right. Right.
So you're continually learning about your industry. And the more like when you go to buy a cake that's decorated, if you got the one that's just out of decorating school, somebody who, like Cake Boss. Like, let me
Right.
show you what we're gonna
Right.
do with this fondant. That's the only word I know from Cake Boss. Let me do with this fondant. What you can do with this fondant right here.
Hmm.
So yeah, it's when you have a level of mastery, then you can increase your price.
Hmm.
And that is something that I, would definitely recommend, especially new business owners. Don't plunk out on your price.
Yeah.
you
Yeah.
know, um, because you have worked to get where you are. You have put in your blood, your sweat, and your tears. And don't adjust your price to meet somebody else's wallet. If they can't pay you, okay, you can't help everybody.
Right.
You
Right.
have to make that decision, but don't sit there like, going on Groupon or something, and somebody coming to you and you're getting lowballed
Right.
out of your expertise.
Hmm.
Don't do it. It's okay to say, I'm just not the right person for you.
Exactly. I mean, I tell people all the time, especially the friends that I know who are beginning as entrepreneurs. I'm definitely going to refer them to you, by the way. Um, I tell them, I said, don't focus on the fact that people tell you cost too much. Focus on the fact that they can't afford you.
Yeah.
Turn that negative into a positive. It's like, hey, I understand my prices are where they are within a certain range. If you can't afford that, that's fine. There's nothing wrong with that. I'll refer you to someone who's more within your range, and that's going to
Sure.
give you, the quality that fits within that range. No hard
Yeah.
feelings. But at that too, because I had to learn this the hard way, lets you know that you have to adjust your target market.
Yes,
You know,
absolutely.
yeah,
Because you don't see Range Rover going, okay, well, we gonna put this Range Rover on sale
right,
just for you. No, like, baby, you need to go to Toyota,
right,
right?
exactly,
So,
exactly.
that's it's not because people struggle with pricing, and it's based on a confidence level. So
Hmm.
when you're getting started in your industry, you might lowball yourself. Totally get it. It
It
generally
happens.
happens to
Yeah,
everyone,
yeah, it happens. Hmm.
right? But as you become more skilled in what you do, you increase your price to go
Yeah.
along with it. And you also increase the clientele because you wind up getting paid more for doing less work.
Yeah, most definitely. Well, I want to thank you so much for coming on and giving this word that's absolutely amazing to be heard. Tell everybody where they can reach out to you, where they can find you, all your different platforms.
Awesome. You can find me as the Home Biz Tax Lady on all the platforms. Facebook and YouTube is where I hang out the most. But I'm also on Instagram and on Twitter and somewhere else. But if you connect with me on one of those channels, yeah, go over to YouTube. There's a lot of stuff that's over there. I try to get to my comments, but
Mhm.
there's a lot of comments, so I don't always get to all of them. And sometimes people take that personal. Uh, sorry, but yeah, there's a lot of stuff over on the YouTube channel, and you're welcome to connect with me if there's something that's not
Mm.
there. And let me also say this before we close out.
Uh-huh.
I don't care how much Google research you do, how much YouTube and social media research you do. None of that puts your whole tax picture together. You
Right.
need to consult with someone that's looking at your tax picture, because you can watch all of my videos and you still won't necessarily have the right answer for you.
Hmm. That's so
So
true.
you definitely want to do that. Okay,
Yeah.
now I'm done. But yes, you can go find the Home Biz Tax Lady.
Now I'm gonna do one more shameless plug for this book right here. You want to get this book right here. It's on Amazon. You can find it under either LaSundra Everett. You can find it under the Home Biz Tax Lady. It's the No Nonsense Guide to Home Business Management. The only book. It says right here. Look right here. It says the only book you'll need.
I might take that off on the next iteration.
Thank you again, LaSundra. I truly appreciate it. I cannot wait to talk to you again. We're gonna have to do this one more time. We really
Yeah.
are.
Thank you so much for having me.